Okay.
We put this, just a folded up piece of paper, because I'm going to clamp this. It'll be the first clamp, and I want to make sure I don't ruin that string, because when I pull a tension on this one, you don't want the string to like pull through there in any way, or else it's going to damage the
You just
string.
use some paper there.
Because you
okay.
don't, all the clamps can be made tighter or looser. There's a little set screw in the bottom of the clamp right here. You want it to clamp tight enough so the string will not move, but you don't have to go like crazy tight where it's like squishing the string either. Some people get a little out of control. They want to make sure it doesn't slide at all, but there's that happy medium. All right, so now I've got that set. We always do this here because we're stringing a lot of new rackets to protect it. This part of the throat. I have my tension set, my racket's all secure. I've got it set at 58 pounds, so my first tensioning, once this hits like that, once it does
Pops,
that, it's
right.
at 58 pounds, and all I have to do is just clamp it.
You don't use paper on that one?
No, because that one, because of the pulling action of the string pulling up here on this, there's a tendency for that. And if you don't have that clamp set just right, there's less chance of anything happening to the string because of that paper in there. All right. The thing with stringing with the mains is that you don't want to do all of one side and then go to the other side. It puts a lot of stress on the racket. So what I'm going to do is string these two, and then I'm going to switch over to the other side. This is where we have to move it. And do two over here, and then do two more to get ahead of it. And now I'm not going to use that paper anymore.
After you got in the first run through, you
Right.
take the paper off. Okay.
So as you're going here, just make sure that you can see if the string, depending on what thickness the string is, you might have to tighten the clamp. If you look in some of the softer type strings, the clamps will always make a mark on the string. It's just natural. But that's something that takes a little bit of time to know exactly if it's tight enough or not. So now I've done two here to even it. I'm going to go over to the other side, or I'm going to do two more and then go back. I'm doing the same thing here. Like I said, just a precaution to protect the
You don't want it to
throat.
rub against the
You
throat.
don't want that to rub. This is a brand new racket. Don't want it to look used right away.
Yeah, right. And I see this because this is Fortis of the last coming up, so that's why you started up here.
Right. And this, I will go two ahead, and then I'll go to the other side, catch up, and go two ahead over there. This racket is an 18 main racket. Chances are your daughter's is a 16 main. These are a little more tedious because of the number of main strings. There are other rackets that I could have done, but this is more typical of just about any frame you're going to run into.
And this had to be strung regardless, okay?
Yes.
I hope you're coming.
Almost all of our rackets that are the prime new rackets are unstrung. So whatever the choice that person might have as far as the string, the tension, or whatever.
How did you learn how to do this?
I learned when I was like 15, 16.
Oh, really?
Yeah, played a lot of tennis, and a buddy and I bought a stringing machine because we were breaking strings, and nobody was really around to do it for us, So it's been a long.
How did you learn? Did
We
somebody
did
show you?
trial, yeah.
Trial and error.
Kind of trial and error at first. We had probably a little bit of help from a local player, but things have changed a lot in stringing
they did
machines
too.
since then. Yeah, I mean, this type of machine has been around for probably close to 30, 40 years. changed it somewhat, but
Yeah.
it's basically the same.
Okay.
We've tried every kind of machine here possible. There's all kinds of, digital machines that are really expensive electronics. But these are so much easier to use. We string so many rackets here that,
No, I read about there was something, I forget the name, it was a Prince something else that was precursor to it.
yeah. Echelon was a company that made this originally.
Oh,
And then
all right.
Prince bought Echelon. They were made in California at first, and then of course things changed. But there's very few things that can go wrong with it. That's the good part about it. So maintenance is very limited. Since we string so many rackets, it's really not something, we don't want the digital board breaking down or something like that happening where
It's not like it's faster, right?
no, it's actually slower. Now we're going to get to a part of the racket where you're going to be skipping, and it's probably here. A lot of rackets, as you get towards the end of the racket, you'll be skipping holes that will be cross strings.
Okay.
If the racket's been strung before and properly strung, you can see the way that is turned, that was a main string.
Oh, okay.
So it's pretty easy on a racket that's
Older
already
racket,
been
yeah.
strung.
I
This
see
one-
some of these are going to become the crosses.
Some will become the crosses, and I'm not certain I did that right. Gotta look at it. I think I did. No,
Oh, you just skipped. I see how you did that.
yeah,
Did that when
that's
you-
not right. Some of these, this is an 18 main racket, which makes it a little bit
You should count the numbers, right?
here. Just gonna back it out. This one is a main. I thought it looked a little too close to that.
You're welcome.
That's right. And then I just skipped the next one to make it 18. But I'm gonna go back here and catch up on this side. I'm putting my finger here because it's a new frame. These grommets will pull out, and you don't want that because it exposes the string to the sharp part of the frame.
Okay.
These little grommet strips are there to protect the string from the...
Oh, so you're holding behind them to keep them from
Yeah,
popping
because it has a
backwards.
tendency to pop out of
Gotcha.
there when you're pulling tension. All right, so now I've got my last one, and if I put this one as a main, you can see it would not be right. It's way
Okay.
too close. And then you look at, once I do this, are all the cross strings going to look right? Are they like evened out? Because you don't want two cross strings like right next to each other. So
Okay.
it becomes fairly obvious once you kind of test it. Almost every racket will say how many mains it has. It'll say 16 by 19. This is an 18 by 20.
Uh-huh.
So that way you know exactly, if you're making a mistake. Some people might have strung this with only 16 mains because it didn't look like it needed that many strings. But once I get the next one in here, I'll add my 18.
Oh, I see. So
And now-
17 there.
There's different ways of doing this. This is the last string, and then I'm going to tie it off. Here we do this, we tension it, and then we retension it to kind of pull in a little more tension. Some stringers will add 5 pounds to their tension because you're going to lose tension now that I'm tying it off.
Okay.
It's just...
So you just double crank that? Is
I
that
just
what you-
double cranked it. I hit it, and then I pushed this back and then cranked it
I
again.
got you. Okay.
As far as where you tie it off, we like to tie it off as close as we can to that string so it doesn't lose as much tension. Some rackets, there's no options where it can be tied off. With a lot of Wilson, there's a lot of holes that are big enough.
So the closest hole that's
The
not going to be.
closest hole,
That's a main.
yeah, so I'm gonna tie this main string off on this other main string that's right next to it.
Mm-hmm.
And how I do that is I just do a double half hitch. I don't know if you're sailing or any fishing or anything, but it's just I'm going over the top of the string, under it, and then through the loop I've made.
Okay.
So it's very simple.
Gotcha.
And then I'm just going to tighten that. I've got like a parallel jaws pliers. You could probably just use a regular pliers or even a needle nose or something like that. I'm just grabbing onto it and then pulling it towards the middle of the racket and back just to pull in the excess.
Okay.
And then I should have a nice strong knot, and then I'm going to do another over, under, through.
Another
And do the same
knot.
thing. So a double half hitch. That's a pretty common knot. There are plenty of different knots that you can use. Obviously, you can have your own knot. We have a certain way of doing all our rackets, so if somebody came in and said we strung the racket wrong, we could know exactly if we did it or not. So everybody consistently does it the same way here, so we're not getting somebody freelancing and trying some other crazy stuff. All right, so I'm going to do the same thing on this side. Skip that last one. Double tension it. And then tie that off. And the reason I'm using this, it just kind of opens the hole up a little bit so I get my string. There's not a lot of tools that you really need. Just like a side cutter, to cut the string. A needle nose plier to kind of help push it through. And then I could use this to pull it tight also, but I grew up learning with this, so that's the way I do it. Same thing. All right, so I've strung my mains. I can get rid of the clamps. Don't have to be on anymore.
Oh, they don't have to. No longer. This is.
Well, if you saw the first one, I just took that off once I knotted it, and then set that down there because I only need one clamp for my cross strings.
Okay.
And